do we get to this point? All right, let's go back. Little history lesson, Hannity history lesson. We start in the 90s. Then President Bill Clinton. It was a good deal for the American people. Remember that? When he met with the North Korean dictator at the time, Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. Well, Clinton then promised this was a good agreement for the American people, that they're not going to get nuclear weapons, and he paid billions of dollars in energy subsidies and made concessions, and somehow sucking up and bribing dictators would make for world peace. Didn't work out, but you may remember this.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons. South Korea, with support from Japan and other nations, will bear most of the cost of providing North Korea with fuel to make up for the nuclear energy it is losing. And they will pay for an alternative power system for North Korea that will allow them to produce electricity while making it much harder for them to produce nuclear weapons. The United States and international inspectors will carefully monitor North Korea to make sure it keeps its commitments. Only as it does so will North Korea fully join the community of nations.
Now, Bill Clinton, he was dead wrong. North Korea successfully developed a nuclear weapons program, and under 8 years of the former President Obama, well, his weak and feckless leadership, well, Kim Jong-un's actions became progressively more aggressive and more hostile. And President Obama left Trump with unfettered international disaster after disaster. This is just one. In fact, when President Trump took office in 2017, the situation in North Korea was at a boiling point. Remember Kim Jong-un shooting long-range missiles over Japan, threatening to blow up Guam, and conducting numerous underground tests of nuclear weapons? But after 8 years of weak, pathetic, spineless leadership under Obama, things have changed, and President Trump actually responded. You may remember this.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire, fury, and frankly power, the likes of which this world has never seen before. Frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. And what they've been getting away with is a tragedy, and it can't be allowed. If anything happens to Guam, there's going to be big, big trouble in North Korea. If he does anything with respect to Guam or any place else that's an American territory or an American ally, he will truly regret it, and he will regret it fast. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
Now, of course, the president then backed up his tough rhetoric with action, and he sent multiple carrier strike groups to the region. He conducted numerous military drills, ramped up devastating sanctions against North Korea, and, of course, put a lot of pressure on North Korea's biggest ally, China. And he forged a great relationship with the Chinese president. What this is called, these words are peace through strength. And by the way, it sent your mainstream corrupt, destroy Trump media into literally a hysterical fit. You can't make this up. Take a look.
The idea of a nuclear showdown with North Korea keeps you up at night? I would recommend deleting your Twitter app.
He is not merely being cavalier with a threat about nuclear war. He's being cavalier in a way that makes him seem demented.
These are the messages from a person who is not well, from a leader who is not fit for office.
President Trump is goading Kim Jong-un to test a nuclear missile again, to prove its reliability, to show him wrong. And fundamentally, I think it comes across as two kindergartners who are jostling each other, except that each has nuclear weapons.
Well, here's what...
Too late after 100,000 Americans die.
After a nuclear holocaust.
Or after 1 million die in Seattle.
And that's where we are. This is not an exaggeration.
Trump's comments about nuclear weapons have experts worried he could literally inadvertently trigger a catastrophe.
Of course, we now know for certain the media is absolutely wrong. They were wrong. They are wrong. And in the interim, North Korea halted their nuclear tests. All ICBM tests done. They returned 3 American hostages. They agreed to discuss now the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula in exchange for no concessions. Remember, he crossed over the DMZ into the arms of the South Korean president, and he dismantled one of his nuclear test sites. And despite the president's diplomatic progress, your media is still hating, doubting, and sadly, many even actively rooting for failure. This would be great for the world, our kids, our grandkids. Now take a look at the highly deranged MSNBC conspiracy host questioning Trump's preparedness for the upcoming summit. Watch this.
We do have to point out the president was critical that when we played that clip of him talking about being prepared for the North Korea summit, we didn't add what he said at the end, and he was critical, and he said, I've been preparing all my life. I'd love to know, Mr. President, when was that? When you appeared in a Playboy softcore porn movie? Was it when you body slammed Vince McMahon, the head of the World Wrestling Federation? Or was it when you were leaking information, when you were disguising yourself as your own PR guy, talking to tabloids about what a great lover you were?
Take a look at this cover from The Economist showing the president in the place of Miley Cyrus. You know, that infamous video wrecking ball, accompanied with the headline, quote, even if Donald Trump strikes a deal with North Korea, his foreign policy will harm America and the world, even if he does it. All right, that's rooting for failure. And while the media tries to bash the president at every turn, they can't help themselves. He has a lot of really important diplomacy to tackle. Now, we're going to have a lot more tonight on the upcoming talks in Singapore throughout the show. We will be broadcasting there all next week. But first, today, President Trump, he landed in Quebec in Canada to meet world leaders at the annual G7 summit. Tensions were running high ahead of the meeting after President Trump announced plans to tackle some of the unfair trading international practices with retaliatory tariffs. He wants free and fair trade. And last night, the president called on Canada. You called him out on Twitter, writing, quote, Prime Minister Trudeau is being so indignant, bringing up the relationship that the U.S. and Canada had over the many years and all sorts of other things. But he doesn't bring up the fact that they charge up to 300% on dairy, hurting our farmers, killing our agriculture. And French President Macron responded on Twitter, calling the president, quote, isolated. And today, here's what Trump had to say about what could be a very tense but interesting G7 Trump summit. Take a look.
If we're unable to make a deal, we'll terminate NAFTA. We'll have a better deal. If we are unable to make a deal, we will be better off. Right now, we are not going to live with the deals the way they are. European Union treats us very unfairly. Canada, very unfairly. Mexico, very unfairly. With that being said, I think we'll probably very easily make a deal.
Now, while the president is busy doing what he does best, and that's negotiating, I know if I ask him to come on the show, he'll say, I'll give you 5. I'll say 15. How about 6? I'll give you 14. And that's what President Trump does. Now, the media's been very busy doing what they do best, spreading anti-Trump vitriol, copious amounts of fake news, especially true over at NBC News. Just take a look at how absolutely disgusting this clip is, where NBC hosts are trashing the women in the president's life. This is so deranged and off the rails. You can't even make it up.
Let me ask you, I mean, you know more about the Trump women, the Trump family than anyone. What do they do on a day like today? Are they just the most stoic human beings? Are they numb? Are they dead inside? Are they paid off? I mean, what's their deal?
Yes, and yes. But I think they do not see President Trump the way that all of us see President Trump. They have such a distorted image of who he is that they don't have the kind of reaction that we do. It's almost some sort of trick.
But they're mothers now. I mean, what kind of? I mean, and they seem to be raising nice kids. I mean, how do they wall it off?
Dead inside? Andy Lack, are you proud of this? This is your network. Really? Is that news to you? Now, what about this clip, by the way, from your morning anchor, Liberal Joe Amica? And by the way, Andy Lack, are you really proud of this bizarre conspiracy that she's now, well, pawning off as news on your so-called news network? Here you go. I hope you love it.
I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, the hypocrisy is astounding because I know someone who spoke to Donald Trump recently about life in the White House, and Donald Trump's biggest complaint was that he's not allowed to watch porn in the White House. So there you go. There's a little bit of news for you. He's upset that he can't watch porn in the White House.
I bet they have those, 1-900 numbers blocked too, which must be a disappointment.
I'm not really sure, but it just sort of flies in the face of all of this.
Now, of course, NBC News is far from being the only news outlet with their extreme bias against the president. Many in the media, well, they've been going after yours truly all week because of a monologue I did earlier in the week. And all I did was highlight a sad example of what is a two-tiered justice system in this country. We don't have equal justice under the law. We have one system of justice for the Clintons and one for the rest of us. And I was obviously being sarcastic and making a comparison. I said, what if I said that those that Robert Mueller has requested their phones from, what if? I said, it's a bad idea. Kidding. I said all sorts of caveats. What if they followed Hillary Clinton's lead? What if, in fact, they decided to delete their emails, wipe away all evidence, acid wash and bleach bit the hard drives on those phones, and then smash them up into itsy-bitsy pieces with hammers? They were more mad at me than they actually were at Hillary for actually doing these things. Here's a taste of how the media distorted these comments.
Sean Hannity is now literally telling potential witnesses and subjects in the Mueller probe to destroy the evidence and hammer their phones into pieces. Now, Hannity's defenders may call that sarcasm or poetic license, but words are words. Sean Hannity lives off his words, and we all know they have a huge impact. If anyone actually does what Sean Hannity says there, they'd be committing a crime.
What Sean Hannity admitted to and actually was enticing people to do and asking them to do was to destroy evidence, which is a violation of the witness tampering statute.
No responsible person on television, no responsible so-called journalist should be advocating for people to destroy evidence in a serious federal investigation. I don't think that we'll see him prosecuted. Federal prosecutors give people a very wide berth on First Amendment-related conduct. And so unless there's something more specific to link it up, I think that this will be what we often categorize as awful but lawful conduct.
Listen, if he's out there advocating for Mueller's witnesses to obstruct justice, then maybe the Mueller should speak to him and ask him where the idea come from. Have you spoken to the president about this? Did the president tell you to say this?
Knowing Mueller, I think he's not going to light that fire under someone who gets free airtime every day. But one angle would be to say, yeah, look, I'm going to a judge, and I'm going to have you cease and desist this activity on national television. Secondly, I want to talk to you and see if Trump has gotten this idea from you or vice versa.
Cease and desist? Call me into Mueller's office. The idea came from me. I can't believe how stupid some of you people are that supposedly work in this business.